Okay, so welcome everyone to the 22222. I won't get to say that again because I won't be alive in 100 years. 22222 TCD Board of Supervisors annual board, monthly board meeting. For the record, at this point we have supervisors Helen Wheatley, David Ayal, Betsy DeVreda, and myself, TJ Johnson. We are expecting Supervisor Rushton to join us here momentarily. We also have our Executive Director, Sarah Moorhead, and we have our Legal Counsel, Ben Cushman. Yes, I think that's everyone. So, of course, we're recording this, recording this. The next item here is the agenda review. We've made a bunch of changes to the agenda based on the work session. So just to review those, we've added after partner reports, after item 5 partner reports, a series of updates. Those were the items that were bumped from the 6A through D were bumped from our work session. So we'll handle those there. The other change from the agenda that was sent out previously is that we have added a second executive session, item 9, at the end of the evening to discuss potential litigation with our legal counsel. So those are the changes. Is there a motion to approve our agenda?
I so move.
Moved by Betsy. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by David. Let's take a vote on the agenda. Betsy?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Helen?
Aye.
Helen, you're muted.
Aye.
Thank you. Doug?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. So we have unanimously approved the agenda. That takes us to the consent agenda. I am asking that we pull item A off of consent and put that immediately following the other items. Because I was not at that meeting, I intend to abstain from the vote on that issue. So that leaves us 5 things on consent: our February 2022 financial report, the 2022 annual plan, which we discussed in the work session, RCO applicant authorization agreement 22-1201 for lower Eld Inlet bulkhead removal, the NACD landowner outreach sub-agreement between TCD and WSU, and MOA, and then finally the WCCRI sub-agreement between the district and the Eco Studies Institute. So that's our consent agenda. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Moved by David. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Betsy. Vote on consent agenda. David?
Aye.
Betsy?
Aye.
Helen?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That has passed unanimously. That moves us to item 4, the board session and meeting minutes that I asked be pulled. I asked they be pulled because I was not there, so I intend to abstain, but I will take a motion on that item.
I move to approve the January 25th board work session and meeting minutes.
Moved by Betsy. Is there a second?
Oh, change the
I'll
date.
second. Yeah,
These
I'll
say
second.
2022.
Yeah, let's make it 2022. And it was seconded by Doug.
Yeah, and I had a comment on that. We did make changes to it. As,
We did make changes.
as amended.
That's correct. As amended in the work session. Okay, so vote on those amended minutes. Betsy?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Helen?
Aye.
And I abstain from that vote. The motion passes 4 ayes, 1 abstention. That moves us to item 5, public comment. This is the time when any member of the public can address the board for up to 3 minutes on a topic of their choosing. I don't believe we have any member of the public with us tonight, but I will stop here and ask if there's anyone out there that wants to address the board. Speak up. Hearing none and seeing none, I will close public comment. We will move on to partner reports. First up is NRCS. I don't believe that we have Robin Buckingham with us tonight. I assume we will get a written report, as we often do. We also don't have partner report B, Elena Reynolds. She indicated she couldn't be with us, but she did submit the ecology non-point report earlier, so that is available to us. Report C, we also don't have Jean Fike from the Conservation Commission. So, Sarah, can you circle back with her and ask her to send us anything in writing that we should be knowing about that she would have otherwise reported?
Yeah, I will share that with her. I did follow up after the last meeting, and she indicated that it is not typical for her to attend all of the board meetings in her region. Usually if there's service that she needs to provide. So she said, if you don't see me often, you're doing great. And encourage that if any board member has a question for her as well, or something that they'd like her to look into, to reach out. But I will also ask if she has additional updates. Okay,
thank you. And she did inform us earlier that we're not on the naughty list anymore, so she might not always be here to watch over us. So thank you. That then moves us to the WACD and NACD reports. Doug submitted some information in writing in advance. Doug, do you have anything to add to your reports?
Yes, I do. We have had a meeting of the WACD board on the 21st. That was yesterday evening. We've got a couple of new area directors, which are basically board members for WACD. We've got Jack Clark out of Benton and Annie Byerly out of Walla Walla. I know both of those people, and I think they'll be really great. Sarah was able to give a perceptions of kind of the conflicts that are going on that she sees within WACD, and tried to push a path forward, or at least suggest a path forward. There wasn't a whole lot of discussion after she left about it, because most of the board wanted to move on to other stuff. So I think those were the biggest items, at least in my mind. For NACD, the annual meeting was last week in Orlando, and I think you all know that I didn't go for a variety of reasons. Larry Davis from Whatcom was my surrogate. He was my assistant, well, not assistant, he was my alternate previously, so he knows the process pretty well. And we had two resolutions that went from Washington to NACD, one from Skagit on updating the reimbursement rates, and it passed. There was also one from Okanagan that did not pass on emergency funding for restoration repairs like fencing. The way it's set up now is they'll repair one wire but not three on a fence, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And the perception is that with some work that'll be okay. To me, one of the biggest things that happened is Kim LaFleur. Kim is a lady. She's a cranberry farmer from Massachusetts. She's the first president, which means she's the president-elect. That's the first time that a woman has been in that position. I think that bodes well for the organization. She's really sharp, perceptive, politically astute, and I think will be an asset, even more of an asset than she is. And the fly-in is scheduled for March 22nd. WACD is working with the Conservation Commission and NRCS to make sure we have our act together from Washington so we can lobby for stuff pertinent to Washington. And generally what happens is it's like our Washington State Ledge Days, and we meet with agency people as well as legislators, or excuse me, congressional people and staff. So whoever we can affect to help our cause, that's what we do. And that's, again, scheduled for March 22nd. On March 8th, there will be a session for advocacy training, they're calling it. I think it's, they want to make sure we're all saying the same type of thing. If anybody wants to see that, please let me know. I'll be glad to send that, or I could just, if you want, send it to Sarah and she can send it around. And I think that'll do it.
Questions for Doug? I have one question, Doug. I'm hooked into several groups that are starting to organize around the reauthorization of the Farm Bill, which will happen in 2023. Is there talk at NACD about beginning a process to identify our priorities and initiatives under the Farm Bill reauthorization?
Yes, there is, and they're part of the conversation. We have a lobbyist, a gentleman named Rick Ennis from Meridian Enterprises, who's originally from Washington, and he keeps his thumb firmly on that. There's a new government affairs director for NACD. His name's Chris Young. He's started on the 1st of February, so I'm not sure how up you'll be on our issues. But yeah, we traditionally look at the Farm Bill issues and make sure we're all saying the same thing. And that's one of the agenda items for our state group too, is to push for the parts that we think are important to Washington. And I did send out, I don't remember if I sent it to our board or not, the NACD priorities. It's a one-pager. Did I send that to you guys?
I think so.
That's silence seems like a no. I'll send it.
So I guess maybe to be more specific, in order for the NACD to lobby on behalf of conservation districts, they need to know what we want out of the Farm Bill. And so trickling back, WACD needs to know what districts in Washington State want out of the Farm Bill. So how does that process work? How do we, as supervisors in Thurston, get to be a part of a conversation that leads to some lobbying effort around Farm Bill reauthorization?
Generally, there's a questionnaire or an email sent out or something in the 5 things now that'll ask for input.
Okay.
And I will make sure that I will bring that up at our executive committee meeting on Friday to make sure that there's a process in place, because sometimes stuff gets missed, and frankly, there's some people in the CD world in Washington that are pretty upset about WACD for a variety of reasons.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's always politics, but the bottom line is if they're speaking for conservation districts nationwide, they need to know what those districts think. So ensuring that there's a robust process for our input is pretty important.
Yeah, I think there is, but
Okay.
I will reiterate it. I don't think saying it again will hurt.
Okay, thank you. Okay, unless there's anything else for Doug, we will move on to the updates that we bumped from our work session. The first one here is the CEC development. Sarah, news on that front?
Yeah, this will be a brief update for February. Just following again on our timeline, we are gearing up for a series of focus groups, which we talked about at our January meeting. We're seeing decent attendance at this point, or registrations coming in. Some groups are a little bit lighter than others. So we'll be reaching back out to those populations and really trying to get as many folks to the table as we can. Either way, we'll be proceeding with doing those and collecting that information, and we'll be generating a report once those wrap up and sharing that with the board prior to the March work session. That'll be a really big focus of that March work session for conversation and discussion, and out of that will come those priorities for our Conservation Education Center that the board would like to see. That will help inform the generation of a request for proposals, or an RFP, that Beckwith will send out to the community, and that will support some of looking for sites, right? That will be detailing the characteristics and qualities, parameters, location of that we can further enhance that. So our consultants will be present at that March work session and can answer any questions and have conversation they want to hear directly from the board, which I think is perfect. So stay tuned and look for that report. That'll come to you at minimum a week before the March work session for your review.
Thank you. Item B, the legislative update. Anything there beyond what we've been receiving from WACD?
I would just say that there's a small highlight of our legislative activities as TCD in my executive director's report, mostly a list of the elected officials and their offices that we met with or have met with so far in this legislative session. I will just say that we continue to have really robust bipartisan support from our local electeds, which is really wonderful to see. We have just had an increased understanding by our local electeds in really the demand for services here in Thurston County. There's a big interest in supporting and enhancing a focus on funding voluntary conservation in the natural resources budget in the coming biennium. So we are working to prepare and produce one-pagers and provide that information, all the information that our elected officials need to support that, as well as looking at trying to get them out on the ground this summer. So stay tuned for more on that, because it would be great to have our board connecting and communicating this need directly with our elected officials, and it'll be great to get out on the ground in good weather. So there's a lot of interest in getting out and seeing projects and talking with community members, and I was really heartened to see that. That's all I have. Doug, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
This is Doug. I was unmuting. I don't know if you called on me or not. If you did, I sent probably 24 emails to our local representatives and senators on the various issues that WACD had brought up, and also which ones are important to us in Thurston.
I guess I would add one note as well. Our local representative, Lori Dolan, was the lead sponsor on House Bill 1652, which was the Conservation District election bill that was formed out of committee. We had conversations with her this morning, and she is enthusiastic about preparing that bill and finding additional sponsors to take that during the next session and drop that early and get that out there. She's willing to be an advocate outside of the legislature, as she will not be running again for re-election. But there seems to be some good support and momentum there, and she is really committed to supporting that in her new capacity as an advocate.
Well, I hope part of that advocacy involves sitting down with Representative Gregerson, because we've got to get everybody on the same page with that election thing. That poison pill that she threw in there at the last minute really, I think, undermined a lot of work that was done statewide around the elections process. So clearly some work needs to be done with the King CD and the representatives of that area.
Yeah, they have been chastised and talked to, but seem to think that one size doesn't fit all, that they're way different. But it, in effect, has real negative impacts on the rest of the districts.
Well, I mean, I think they're right. One size doesn't fit all, but what they were proposing was one size does fit all. That was Gregerson's amendment.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
yeah.
But that's fairly typical of King County with a lot of issues at the legislature, assuming that the way it works there is the way it should work everywhere. So, at any rate, thanks for the legislative update. Let's move on. Board announcements. I'll start at the top of my screen here. Helen, you have anything?
Well, I mean, there's nothing really on the TRPC agenda that I need to draw attention to for now. They did have their elections, and it's Hillary Seidel is the chair, which I think bodes well for the steering committee, and then Clark Gilman is vice chair. That's it.
Thank you. Betsy?
Well, I attempted to attend the Thurston Climate Action Team's Food and Ag Action Group a week or so ago, but due to an unupdated website, I was unable to get into the meeting because the link hadn't been updated. So stand by. Does anyone have any comments about the work they do? Any experience? Are you familiar with them?
I mean, I think my main comment is they're pretty under the radar right now as far as most people are concerned.
Yeah, that's what I would say. That's why I was just gonna go to a meeting and see if they were getting anything done. Yeah, okay, well, that's good feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for doing that and sticking your nose in there and seeing what we can learn. I appreciate that.
Hey,
Helen?
TJ, I forgot, I was also going to announce that the Climate Action Steering Committee is going to be meeting on Monday at 3, and they might actually be talking about the carbon sequestration white paper that TRPC's been working on. So that might have some relevance down the road.
Thank you.
What's a white paper?
Well, they've been researching how they might incorporate carbon sequestration into the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions for the county. So they're looking at agriculture and forestry as potential mechanisms for bringing the numbers down in the county. They've really been struggling with the agriculture component because it's a difficult one to easily wrap your head around. So they might be talking about that a little bit. I'll let you know, but if anybody's interested, that's going to be on Monday.
Thank you. Doug, do you have anything?
Nothing in addition to what I've already said. Thank you.
David?
Nothing today.
All right. Couple quick things from me. We will be meeting again in a couple weeks with the group working on Olympia farmland issues. We're kind of at a point now where we've got so much that we've looked at that we really need to kind of refine and set some priorities in order to have something tangible to offer to the city council by midsummer to get into their budget process. So I think this March meeting will be some filtering and some identification of some priorities. We talked a lot about a lot of good things, but to some degree, we've lost the focus of where this started, which is we're losing farmland and we need to stop losing farmland. So I'm going to be continuing to push for that as our primary objective, in addition to a lot of the other good things that we're looking at. The other thing go ahead, Helen.
I was just going to ask, are you talking about the comprehensive plan amendments at all? And
No,
how?
Not at this point. This is much bigger picture kind of stuff that may or may not lead to code changes and or comprehensive plan changes, but that's further down the road at this point.
Well, I'll just give you a heads up though. I mean, for the comp plan, that's it started down the track. I mean, it's worth thinking about.
Yeah, but in terms of this group being able to do much with it, we'll see where we get. Yeah. The other thing I'll mention is that this week is Soil Health Awareness Week, and I was participating today in the soil conference that was put on by a number of organizations, including WSU and the Soil Health Initiative that's coming out of WSU. And it was interesting, pretty technical session, but just a couple of interesting statistics that I picked up today. One that directly relates to what I was just talking about in Olympia. We are continuing to lose almost 450,000 acres a year of farmland to what they call soil sealing, which is basically pavement. And so this little problem we have in Olympia is really a microcosm of a much larger problem that's happening nationwide that doesn't seem to be slowing down in any way. So that was interesting. The other big interesting statistic I pulled out of that was that 99% of all the calories that human beings eat come out of soil. So only 1% comes from something other than soil, water, presumably, or air. And we're losing topsoil at a rate 5 times faster than natural formation. So there are lots of environmental problems with losing farmland, but there's also some human health and nutritional impacts as we continue to lose farmland, because that's where the calories to feed people come from. So there's another set of sessions tomorrow morning. I'll be tuning into those as well, and if anything comes out of that, I'll let you all know at the next meeting. With that, we'll move to executive director's announcement. Sarah?
I have one thing to add, and that's our COVID-19 update that we wanted to move from our work session to the public meeting.
Did I skip over that? I think I did.
No, that was my oversight just in translating those items because it was in a different section and I did not translate that. So we'll include that here if that's okay with everyone.
Yes, please.
And that is, we heard a lot of news recently about impending changes to indoor masking requirements being lifted as of March 21st. So far, the approach that I would like to present to the board is the one that we have adopted during all of COVID, which is the wait and see policy. Wait and see if that happens. If that does happen, see what the circumstances are during that time and then react to that and create a protocol and an approach to adapt to the world as we know it at that time. So that definitely seems like the best approach, and we'll be also keeping our eyes and ears out for any OPMA changes, as well as any thing that might come out of this legislative session that might modify some of those prior OPMA changes. So I anticipate we'll have a much more robust discussion at our next meeting, which will be the day after. So that is what I have at this point. Does the board have any questions or comments related to that piece? I don't have any further updates at this time or announcements.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sarah. Let's then move to item 8. We have one item under governance, which is our next meeting work session topic list and meeting agenda. Do we have a, there we go. There's a draft of those. Sarah mentioned the staff presentation next month on community requests for our services. I personally think that's going to be a very interesting to get to some of the points that Helen raised earlier, and I think that we've all thought about who we're serving and how we're serving them. So that's very useful data. And then, of course, we're going to have a big chunk of time talking with our consultants on the CEC, the stakeholder engagement piece. Betsy?
Right above the blue that she just said, we got another 2021.
Yes, thank you. Looks like the remainder of our work session items there are usual routine items, legislative, COVID, etc. Look at the agenda for the board meeting, Sarah. Scroll down a little bit. There we go. All the usual things there in terms of meeting minutes and financial reports and partner reports.
And do we have that new process where we put informational reports at the end? Or is this not this? Yeah, it goes on the, yep, great.
There it is. Okay. Sarah, it's not on here. Oh, yes, it is. Sorry, I was looking. Item 6A, it's already there, the elections. Report on the elections. That'll be good. Okay, anything anyone wants to add at this point to these draft documents? Okay, if not, that's where we start, and we'll refine as we move on towards March. We could get back to tonight's agenda.
Is it too late to add one more thing to my comments?
Your comments on what?
Where we each say what we want to say. I just want to say that I've been reaching out to community members to just remind them to vote. I don't think we should take anything for granted, and it's really nice to have whoever is on our board elected by a large number of people. So I just encourage all of us to help spread the word to our community about the board election.
That's a good point, Betsy. I've been doing the same thing because I think continuing to show that the community has interest in the district by voting in the election, that'll be part of a good story to tell the county commissioners when we go back for reauthorization on rates and charges, which isn't that far away. So thanks.
Yep.
Okay, with that, we have a couple of executive sessions here tonight. The first is to discuss the performance of our executive director. This is permitted under RCW 423110G. We've conducted an annual performance review of the executive director, and this will be kind of the final piece conversation between the board and our executive director. Don't expect that we're going to be in this session for more than a few minutes, 5 or 10 minutes maximum. At which point I will come back into a public meeting to announce our second executive session. So with that, Sarah, can you remind us?
You are on mute, TJ.
We're back from our executive session discussing the performance of our executive director. The participants in that session were the executive director and all members of the board. We provided feedback. There was no decisions made in that executive session. We will now be moving to our second and final executive session to discuss potential litigation with the legal counsel. I expect this executive session will take no longer than 15 minutes. This session is permitted under 42.3110I, and we will take no action in executive session. The members, participants in that executive session will include all the board members, our executive director, and our legal counsel, Mr. Ben Cushman. And we will come back and report out from that meeting and adjourn no later than 7:30. So Sarah, if we could head over there again.
Yeah, and make sure you give me the link to the breakout room too this time.
Yes.
Yes, you're invited, Ben.
Yeah.
And TJ, I think, do you have a button in the bottom right? And TJ, you are on mute.
Yep. Okay, we're all back here. We are reporting back from the executive session that we just concluded discussing, I don't want to say it without having the language in front of me here, Sarah. Can we put that specifically back up on the screen? I want to be absolutely clear about what it was we discussed. There we go. Thank you. We discussed potential litigation with our legal counsel. We received an update and provided some feedback on to both counsel and our executive director on that issue. No decisions were made. And with that, that concludes our meeting this evening. I need a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Moved by Betsy. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by David. We'll vote on adjourning. Betsy?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Helen?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. We have adjourned our meeting. Thank you all for participating. Good to see you all again, and we'll see you next month, if not before.